So our next cake we're going to do is a naked cake. And this again is really popular. You'll see a lot of naked cakes for weddings when it's an outside wedding. The thing about a naked cake is that, remember when we did our German chocolate cake, I said that professional chefs don't like to keep the sides of the cake exposed because they dry out. So the secret when you do this is to actually build a naked cake inside of a guitar sheet or an acetate strip. So this is what the acetate strip looks like. It's just a very firm piece of plastic, and then we build the cake inside of this, and it sits flush against this acetate strip so that then air can't get exposed to it until we unmold it and we peel this away. So this is, again, is how we can fight the cake drying out. Now the cake that we're going to do today is called the chocolate malted cake. You've already done the components for it. We have the chocolate cake. Everything in there has some Ovaltine in it because Ovaltine, is malted flavor. And this is different than malt that we use in yeast bread class because this is a sweetened malt that you use to make milkshakes with. So this is a cake that actually is coming from the bakery called the Milk Bar in New York. She is most famous for her naked cakes. So this has a lot of components to it. So what we did first is we baked the cake, and we baked it in a sheet pan because when you do a naked cake, since all the layers are exposed, we need them all, the cake layers to be the exact same height. So when you bake it in a sheet pan, we can just stamp it out, and then we'll be ensured that all the cake is the perfect height. It's not like when we have to tort it, sometimes our knives can float up or down, and we get ridges or hills or valleys in our cake. So when it's baked in a sheet pan, we'll make sure that we get them nice and level. So far in all of our cakes, when we've been moistening them, we have been using simple syrup or dessert syrup. In this Milk Bar cake, we're going to use chocolate milk. And again, I just want to show you that you can use anything to moisten a cake. We could have done simple syrup, we could do this milk, we could do straight alcohol. We're not going to do that, obviously, but so we're going to do the milk. This actually has little streusel crumbles that go inside of the cake. We've made our chocolate caramel all ready to go in there, and we've roasted some marshmallows. So you can see it's a very elaborate cake, great taste, great, very rich. When you see this cake, you're going to laugh at me because we're doing a 6-inch cake, but guess what? Milk Bar sells a 6-inch cake for $50 before you get shipping. I will admit I have bought one. I've had a couple shipped to the house. They're very decadent. And this little 6-inch cake can feed about 10 to 12 people because the cake slices go so thin. So some things in life are worth spending that kind of money on. I had to splurge. I'm a working girl. It's not like I can afford that price of cake all the time, especially when I can make it. But, I always like to see things. I'd like to dissect them, again, flip them around, see what I like, and then we could tweak it a little bit. But this is almost one of the perfect cakes. If you want to look at her website, it is the Milk Bar. She had a pop-up store that came to Chicago last summer, and the line was about 2 hours to get into it, so she sold out completely. Okay, so I've got my mise en place set, so I'm just going to swing the camera around, and we're going to start to build our naked cake. Alright, so we're ready to go. You can see I have my sheet cake. I have my cake ring, and it has about an 8-inch strip of acetate. It's overhanging the cake ring because we're going to build this cake tall. And I have another one of my circles, so I'm just going to stamp out 3 layers. So there's my first one, second, and then to get my third, I'm just going to go halfway on this side and halfway on that side, and I'll build these together. I'm going to use these 2 halves as my interior. So I've got my 3 circles cut, and I'm ready to start to build. So the first thing I'm going to do is just move my cake over. Here's my acetate strip. I'm going to lift my first layer of cake in. So this cake has the malt too, so I'm just going to take it, push it into the cake ring. The hardest part about all of these cakes that we've been doing is just to do all the prep. Once we get going, the assembly is pretty quick. Here is my chocolate milk. So this is just milk that has some Ovaltine in it. This is what I'm going to use to moisten my cake. You could use a pastry brush to do this. You could use the squeeze bottles that we've been doing. I just want to make sure to get enough in there, so you can see I'm using a spoon, and I'm going to use a third of it because I'm going to have 3 layers of cake, and I want to make sure to moisten each cake. The next thing I'm going to do is put a tiny bit of buttercream down. So you can see I put it right in the center, and then I'm going to use my spoon. And I'm just going to spread this thin. Again, this is my protective layer. So that goes in. Now I want to make sure I get a nice even portion, so I'm just going to pipe a ring around the outside, and that will help me build this level. Okay, because when a naked cake is exposed, we want every layer again to look beautiful and very even. Here is our chocolate caramel that we put in. I know, look how rich this is. So I'm going to do a nice layer of this on the inside. This one recipe is enough for almost 2 cakes, so you're not going to see me putting too much because it is pretty rich. I'm just going to move this around in case some of my droppings went, into one big glob. Yeah, that's my culinary. Oh my God, I just said yeah. I never say yeah. I always fought my kids not to say yeah. So yes, glob is my culinary term for the day. So I have my caramel went down. The next thing that I'm going to do is put my marshmallows in. And when I do these marshmallows, I'm going to place them along the edge so that they can be seen. And these marshmallows, remember, we just put them on the silpat, we torched them, and then we just let them dry. If you're in a hurry though, after you torch them, you can put them in the freezer because we're just looking for them to set so that we can actually pick them up. And then I'm just going to sprinkle some right in the middle. And here comes our next layer. I know, lots and lots. I'm going to save some of these bigger pieces for the top garnish. And so the marshmallows and these little streusel bits are what's going to give this cake a little bit of texture. Sometimes cake it's soft upon soft upon soft. So this is just breaking it up a little bit. So you can see I have my pieces, and I made sure that some hit, again, the edge, so that when we unwrap this, we can see the marshmallows, and then we can see the streusel crumbs. So here is my half piece that I cut. I have my second half piece. I'm going to put this in. If it breaks on you, that's no problem, because look, we can just patch it. And no one will be the wiser as long as our cake is level. So you can see I'm tapping this down. It's going to come right to the top of the cake ring. And now all I'm going to do is repeat the process. So now I'm going to use half of my milk because I need the second half to go on the top layer of cake. Remember, this is here for moisture. Put a little buttercream down. I'm going to do my mark along the edge. And I'm just going to smooth this. Again, we don't need a lot because think about everything else that is inside this cake. Very, very rich. So I'm just going to continue to build this, and then I'll come back and I'll show you the final garnish of it. So our naked cake has chilled for a while, maybe about an hour in the fridge. So I'm just going to lift off my cake ring. And remember, if I was going to hold this in the freezer, I just put a little tape here, and then I would keep this covered until the customer buys it and they get it home. So again, I'm just going to peel this away now. And because we built it in that cake ring, look how nice and level the layers are. So they look beautiful. Cake is very even, filling is very even. So that's the secret to doing a beautiful naked cake, is to build it in the cake ring. Bake the cake on a sheet tray so then you can just stamp out the layers. So again, I'll move this over to the table and then I'll give you a final shot of it. So naked cake in the cake ring, acetate strip, and then we just did our build.